To my knowledge, at least, I don't think I've ever talked about Revenge of the Island on this channel before. And that's really weird because I thought I did very early on, or at least I would have done it very early on, but better late than never, I guess. Let's talk about Revenge of the Island, and let's talk about one of the most interesting characters from that season. Revenge of the Island is a very interesting point in the series because it's the first time the OG contestants weren't competing in a season. As you can expect, when the season first initially aired, it was met with very mixed reactions. There were some people that were happy to see the change in pace and actually liked the season, while there were others that preferred the OG cast and didn't like the change all that much. But this season holds a very special place in my heart, as it is the very first season of Total Drama that I actually watched as it was airing. But at that point, I was already kind of familiar with the Total Drama series, and I already loved Island. Island was already my favorite season of the show, even back then. But I loved Revenge of the Island. I thought it was a great season, and even looking back, I still think it's an overall good season of Total Drama. I loved the Gen 2 cast. I still think it's a good cast, even looking back. I remember I loved Brick and I loved Cameron when I was first watching the show, and even now I can say that I love Brick, and I don't really like Cameron as much as I did when I was a kid. I love Lightning and Scott and Joe, but there was one character that I couldn't really figure out if I liked them or not. Maybe because they didn't really offer much to me when I was watching the show. And that character was B. Even now, I can't really decipher if I like B as a character or not. I've seen him get praised around the Total Drama circles. Like, he's very, very liked in the community. They state that he's wasted potential, he was an early boot and he really shouldn't have been, and just overall, he's a wasted character. Was he a wasted character? Or was he booted at the right time? Let's find out. B doesn't say anything in his audition tape, but without him even saying anything, we can already assume some things. B has a ton of gadgets and he has a ton of screens in his room. Now you can assume that B created those himself, he built those himself, and I believe some of that. I do believe he built the robot himself, but I'm gonna go with the assumption that his family is well off. But if he's well off, if his family is well off, then why exactly is he showing up to Total Drama to compete for $1 million? We can assume anything. We don't hear him speak in his audition tape. Right before he's about to speak, that's when his camera dies. So we can assume anything. So again, I'm gonna go with the assumption that maybe since his family is well off and B spends time inside the house 24/7 making gadgets, they wanted him to get out of the house. There's my B headcanon, everyone. I just did my very first headcanon. I'm so proud. Oh, also, we got a B hair reveal. I don't know what to do with this information.
Can you believe we're here?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Lightning! Hello, gorgeous.
B gets introduced and there's really nothing to it until Dawn speaks. Dawn is a very odd character that can read auras. Like, she can tell the colors of someone's aura, she can tell what somebody's thinking, she can tell the future, she can also tell what happened to certain characters in the past, like Scott and Zoe. She's a very weird chick, is what I'm trying to get at. Dawn tells B that he has a purplish green aura, and I don't even know what auras mean. I don't understand the colors of auras, so if it isn't clear that I haven't already gone insane from the show, I had to research what that meant, just out of pure curiosity. Apparently, purple means intellectual, independent, while green means nurturing and caring, and communicative. Communicative? Really? That's interesting. It's interesting because, as we all know, B doesn't talk. He's silent. So, it really raises a couple of questions. Now, I don't want to jump into a conspiracy theory, but is B intentionally being silent? Oh, and I should have made this clear at the beginning of the video. We're only going to be looking at what B specifically does. So if I don't talk about Zoe and Mike and their whole dynamic, or Mike's personalities, or Joe and Brick, then that's why. I'm only talking about what B specifically does. And I will only be talking about characters that are important to B, whether in that moment in time or throughout his run. And I just talked about one of them. I'm going to talk about the other later. When the Gen 2 contestants are thrown into the water and they arrive to shore, B shows up relatively unfazed. He was underwater with Cameron on top of him, and I don't even think he noticed, or I don't even think he cared. Anyways, B is put on the toxic rats, along with Scott, Dawn, Sam, Dakota, Stacy, and Lightning. The first challenge is essentially a race to the cabins. The first team that makes it to the cabins wins immunity, and one of those cabins is a very luxurious mansion. B shows his smarts very early on, and he leads his team to victory. Well, not so much. The toxic rats did get there first. As a matter of fact, they put their totem by the mansion, so that pretty much guaranteed them that they were going to stay there for the duration of the competition. But unfortunately, the other team destroyed that mansion with their totem. And because the mansion was now gone, it was destroyed, and the other team's cabin, regular normal cabin, was the only one that was left. Mutant maggots. I forgot the name throughout the whole thing. Jeez Louise. Since the mutant maggots cabin was the only one that was left standing, they won immunity. They won the challenge. And the toxic rats had to send someone home. And because Stacy was so annoying throughout the episode, she was the first spooked.
They're gaining on us!
It's my duty to inform you, ma'am, that we have bigger problems. My first waterfall!
Episode 2 starts, and B has already proven that he is a valuable asset to his team, probably the most valuable asset that the mutant maggots have. Nothing, absolutely nothing can stop this man. Except...
Rats, whose first name is really Beverly? That's not an embarrassing question. Who cares if a girl's real name is Beverly? Correct. Beverly.
From what we've seen so far, B has shown to have a lack of weaknesses, but it's clear by the look on his face and the shame that he has that he considers his name one of his weaknesses. Interestingly enough, besides his creativity and his smarts, this is the only piece of lore that we get to B's character. It is also through this challenge that we meet Fang for the first time. Aw, what a sweet little shark. But unfortunately, the contestants don't want to do the challenge anymore, and thus, it is cut early. Which is really a shame, because I prefer this part of the episode as opposed to the other part with the other challenge. This was so interesting to me, just learning about the characters more and more, about these new characters especially, considering the fact that we haven't seen them before up to this point, but it is what it is. The other challenge I was referring to is a Wipeout inspired challenge. One person from one team and one from the other are going to do separate obstacle courses. Whoever gets to the end point first wins for their team and wins immunity for their team. Now, I do love these type of challenges. I loved watching Wipeout when I was a kid. I still love the show. It's one of my favorite childhood shows of all time. But, as I've said, I prefer the first challenge in the first part of the episode because it's a good way to get to know the characters. I just found that really interesting. Poor Brick. Throughout a majority of the challenge, the Toxic Rats have a lead. As a matter of fact, when B has a misstep and he's encountered by a very scary looking beavers, he creates a brilliant diversion in order to get himself out of dodge and further extend the Toxic Rats' lead. It's brilliant. It's all brilliant. B is a brilliant player, and not only that, he is further continuing to prove why he is a valuable asset to the Toxic Rats. Unfortunately for him, one person doesn't like that. Let's talk about the other person important to B's story now.
B thinks he's so smart, but once my plan goes into action, he won't know what hit him.
Oh yes, the plan, the strategy. Now, if you didn't know, if you haven't really watched Revenge of the Island in a long time, or if at all, Scott is the main antagonist of the season. His plan is to cause their team to intentionally lose every single challenge and blame it on others on the team. Thus, when the merge rolls around, he will look vulnerable by comparison, since the other team had a false sense of security. It's stupid, it's a stupid plan on paper, but it works. You can't deny that it works, and that's just because of how slimy Scott really is. Thus, when Scott sees B being a very valuable asset to the Toxic Rats, he doesn't like it, because that goes against his plan. Now, Scott wanted to go slow and steady for his obstacle of the challenge, but unfortunately for him, that very obstacle kicks him right in the keister all the way to the next obstacle of the challenge, where B is standing there, waiting to be handed the Toxic Rat so he can do his obstacle for the challenge. But Scott stops himself. For Scott, he can't just hand B the Toxic Rat immediately. That would go against his entire plan. He wants to get the mutant maggots closer to the Toxic Rat, so Scott just starts petting on the Toxic Rat, telling him how good of a boy he is, intentionally stalling the challenge, and not only that, forcing B to wait there, getting angrier in the process. I also want to point out that Scott intentionally calls B Beverly, just to pour salt in the wound. But as I said earlier, B creates that diversion and further extends the Toxic Rat's lead, frustrating Scott. But it doesn't really matter. The Toxic Rats still lose the challenge because of Dakota and her obsession with the paparazzi, causing the loss. And this one just kind of fell into Scott's lap, really.
Hey, what's with the grandpa glasses? We won't be able to see anything wearing these.
Episode 3 rolls around titled, and it's a very interesting episode. Just because Scott is sabotaging his team doesn't mean that he doesn't want to look good in front of his team. Unfortunately for Scott, he is failing in that, and B is succeeding in looking good in front of his team without even saying a word, causing Scott to get even more jealous in the process. Scott already wanted B gone originally, but now he is dead set on getting B gone. The first part of the challenge really isn't important, except for what B does in it. The challenge is essentially getting your entire team up the mountain. The first team that is able to get up to the mountain gets a specific advantage. And while Scott doesn't do anything in the challenge, B essentially takes charge of the challenge and wins it for his team. He basically hotwired a broken chair to get his team all the way up to the mountain. Impressive stuff, right? You know who wasn't impressed? Scott. He didn't get to do that because, again, while he wants to sabotage his team, he still wants to look good for his team.
Hey, it's fixed. Thanks so. My other arm.
Poor Brick. The second challenge introduces the element of the freezing cold. It's pretty much a game of capture the flag. Either you capture the other team's flag, or you destroy their protection. The Toxic Rats won the first part of the challenge, so they can essentially pick what type of protection they want, what type of fort they want, either the more run-down fort or the castle fort. The rats obviously want to go for the castle fort, but Scott stops them. He thinks that the castle fort is a trap, so he instead goes for the run-down fort, and everybody just follows this for some reason. But again, Scott just wants to look good in front of his team, and ultimately, again, it doesn't work. The toxic rat's advantage turns into a disadvantage. All Scott wants to do is look good in front of his team, but most importantly, embarrass Beverly. But Bev seems to be doing fine. As a matter of fact, he built a massive ice block just to feed off of the sun's energy because it was particularly hot that day, and, you know, point the sun towards the mutant maggot's sun fort. What am I saying? Dumb science stuff. Just know that it's dumb science stuff. I was never good in science.
You weren't held enough as a child.
She just violated that man. Jeez Louise. B's contraption is working. The mutant maggot's fortress is quickly melting, and they are in very serious trouble. And Scott notices this. B has been unknowingly upping Scott this entire day, and Scott is getting tired of it, so he sabotages his own team by making them lose. And you know who Scott immediately blames for the loss? B, of course. He quickly convinces the entire team to vote B off, and what's B going to do? Is he gonna talk? He's mute. Even Dawn believes Scott after Scott mentions the fact that B supposedly hates nature, and it never really made sense to me how quickly Dawn believed him. Dawn knew B had mutism. He read his aura. But it doesn't really matter as B is voted off, and before he can even have a chance to say anything, he's catapulted off the island. I do remember he shows back up in the finale to see Lightning versus Cameron, but the only thing I remember B being a part of was getting hit in the nuts by a mutant squid tree. I'm not joking. What did B's nuts do to that squid tree? I tells you nothing! Was B a wasted character that should have gone farther? No. Fine, I'll explain. So does everybody remember what Scott's strategy was? His strategy was to have his team constantly lose to give the other team a false sense of security, sabotaging his team and making sure he looked like a weak link heading into the merge so he can pick everybody else off one by one. B is a very smart character. Even if he's mute, he's going to figure out what Scott's true intentions are. As a matter of fact, I think he already did way before his elimination. Scott can't have that, or his plan wouldn't work. So eliminating the smartest person on your team was the best way to go for Scott's strategy to ultimately work out, at least for a little bit. And do you guys want to know the next person that Scott eliminated from his team in the very next episode? Dawn, the only person that could actually communicate with B, and who was already onto him. Funny how that works. At the end of the day, B's ultimate undoing was the very thing that he was known for, not saying a word. And that will do it for my B video, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed it, seriously. You guys have been so supportive over my last few videos, and I genuinely do appreciate it. We're nearing 400 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. Thank you all so very much. So my plan right now in terms of content is releasing one more video before I take a few weeks off to work on a big project. I'm not going to say what that big project is, but I hope you guys are still around by the time the big project is released. But with that said, if you guys enjoyed today's video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you subscribe, turn on the bell for all notifications so you do not miss a single video. And join the Discord if you're interested, of course. But with all that said, this is Zem1 signing out.